and welcome to Drink and Grow Rich, known as the dumbest smart show on the internet. Woo! I have Allan Cogan with me, the host of the Cogan Conversation. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll be talking on here and Instagram. If you turn yours down, because I can hear myself.
There we go. Sorry.
Cool. We're also on Instagram. So I'm going to move this up so you can see me on Instagram. And yeah, Allan's a super interesting dude. And we are going to chat. And whoever asked the best question on either YouTube or Instagram is going to win. I'll Venmo you at the end, beer money. So ask us questions. And all right, you ready to have some fun? First, I'm gonna take a swig. It's the tradition.
Cheers, sir.
So I was on your show before, the Cogan Conversation, and that is a whiskey drinking show, right?
That's correct.
And remember what I did?
Oh yeah, you went to the store on my recommendation. You got one of my favorite scotches, and do you still have it? Have you finished it?
I finished it by now. It took me like a couple months because I would have like one sip before the podcast because I just left it like right next to my station. And yeah, I'm not a big whiskey drinker, and it said whiskey on it, but you taught me that what it did or didn't have an E in it, so it was not whiskey, it was scotch.
Yeah, well, so Scotch is whiskey, but in Scotland actually in Europe, they don't spell whiskey with an E.
Okay.
It's just a language thing. But I mean, bourbon and rye and Scotch and all that's all whiskey, just different types of whiskey.
Okay. Yeah, I'm still just as interested as I was before. But actually, though, someone asked on Instagram, they said, "What are you drinking?" Tell us.
For sure. So I'm drinking Glenfarclas. It's a 25-year-old Scotch. They are what's known as the economy aged Scotch. It's a cheaper, if you want to get something that's aged and tastes good and is pretty mellow, doesn't have that harsh burn, but you don't want to spend $200+ on a 25-year-old Scotch of a name brand. Glenfarclas is your go-to. I think this bottle's about $110, which is exquisitely cheap for anything over 18 years for a Scotch, and it's very good. And it also has this very, I don't know, it's not the most shelf appealing branding, but that's kind of the charm in it. So people don't go to the store and see that on the shelf and say, "Oh, I want that," because it's not fancy looking. But
there you go.
It's a gem. So
yeah, as an entrepreneur, and thinking about like product and like supply chain, it's like 25 years is a long time before you can you really got to plan ahead. That's what I respect about the fact anything that's aged 25 years, that's cool. That's just cool on its own.
I think about the space too that you need to be able to house all these Scotch barrels or bourbon barrels in I mean, there's a lot of startups in the bourbon industry that have to source already aging. There's companies called MGP in Indiana. They actually make all their money by just aging bourbon and then outsourcing to craft distilleries so that those craft distilleries can start up their own business at some point.
Jeez, that's cool.
It's a big market.
Yeah, and you gotta maybe have a product you can sell because it's like, all right, we're gonna start production today and we'll make our first $1 in 25 years. You gotta probably have something that you do in the meantime.
Yeah,
but it's a cool game. I know you're real into it, and yeah, man, I like my blue moons, and I love drinking, but I don't know that much about it. I keep it simple. But so tell everyone about your show, like who you are, what you're up to.
Yeah, for sure. So the Cogan Conversation, I guess the genesis began probably 2018, 2017 with a couple of buddies. I'm pretty politically minded. I like to talk about politics, but I hate the partisan, bullshit that exists right now. Right. So we had discussed maybe starting a podcast back before podcasts became pretty big. And then, of course, life happens. I've changed jobs. I've moved across the country. I'm originally from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But we just decided to start it because the pandemic happened and we're like, we have nothing else better to do. So why not do it? Let's just do it. And to this day, we're still kind of figuring out our place. We've changed the format a couple of times, but the entire purpose is to sit down and have a conversation over a glass of whiskey as if you were at a bar or a cigar lounge or something where you just, you're kind of disarming the conversation and just having a discussion. You're not having an argument. You're not debating. We're just exploring ideas. And Grant, my producer, and I, we've changed the format now to do a monthly topic. So this month's topic, we talked about the death penalty, and we just discussed it. We kind of did some research and tried to find out, challenge our own ideas. What are the pros and cons, what's good or bad, and we do it in 2 parts. So a first part in the first or second week of the month, and then the second part in the latter half of the month. Next month we're doing censorship, and then the month after that we're actually deep diving into something very timely right now, U.S. military interventionism. So,
those are such interesting topics, and like I'm generally well informed. Like I run my business, I like to stay informed on the world, but like I'm definitely not an expert, but I enjoy this stuff. So that's why I love talking to you. The death penalty. Let's talk about that. Like, all right, here's my first thought on the death penalty. I don't know if it's right or wrong. All I know is if I was facing life in prison, I think I'd choose the death penalty, and I think it'd be a worse punishment to have to live your life out in prison.
That's true. And when we dissected the problem, we did our due diligence in trying to find arguments in favor of the death penalty that were actually academic and actually had reasoning. The problem, though, is so many people are just emotionally vindictive. They want
kill him.
Yes, right. And we referenced the timely topic of Derek Chauvin and that whole thing that pretty much everyone agreed that what he did was wrong, but was it warranting the death penalty? Did he do it on purpose? Was it premeditated? That's all, no, he didn't. But so he got the maximum life sentence, but not the death penalty. And people got upset about that. Well, is it good for the government to be able to kill someone because social pressure? And that's a question. And we also brought up like a hypothetical. What if Osama bin Laden had been captured, not killed? What's the correct way to handle him now as a criminal? Is it to kill him in a public setting so everyone's happier about it? Or is that good for the social psyche? But the data proves that it's more expensive and it does not deter crime. So if it's not actually helping the problem, then why do we have it?
The public setting part's interesting. We don't do it in a public setting, do we?
Not anymore.
We used to. But like Osama bin Laden, like everyone is like, fuck him, 9/11.
Right.
Like it might have been, I think the way it happened was actually pretty good for like the social psyche. Like the SEALs snuck in, shot him in his pajamas. Like everyone was pretty satisfied with that.
Right.
Would you rather live life in prison or get the death penalty? I think that life in prison's worse.
I think it depends. It depends on how much, what prison you go to, how much freedom. I use freedom lightly, but how much freedom you have to, go about and, can I go to the gym and work out and get tattoos and whatnot? Is that type of prison? Can I go learn? Do they have an education center where I can maybe get a degree, even though I can never use it? That might like give me purpose to live.
True.
But if I'm just, I don't know.
Dude, I actually say that, but now that like, if I was actually like in that situation, I'd probably, there's always a chance that, there's a jailbreak or like a meteoroid hits and like the world goes out and you can start over. You get let out of prison. There's a chance of that, but also like I love life, so it would suck in prison, and I love freedom, so I'd be suck. But you could, if you're going to be there, you can like make friends. You can. I don't know a lot about jail. It scares the hell out of me, and not that I would want to go commit crimes, but it's definitely a deterrent for me. Just jail in general, and the idea of it's scary is probably very good, but I don't know what it's like. Maybe it's not that bad.
Here's an idea for you. What if in, let's say, 50 years time, we have technology to time travel, and we can, you have the option. You can either have the death penalty, you can go sit and rotten in a prison cell, or we can give you a Bowie knife and maybe a couple different sets of clothes or some tactical gear. We send you 5,000 years back into the past in the wilderness, and you can fend for yourself.
Oh, well, yeah, I'm taking that.
Right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome. 5,000 years, I mean.
Or Jurassic era, I don't know.
Yeah, if you're in America 5,000 years ago, like, we don't even know. There's probably nothing. Probably just woods. Just woods. Maybe some Native Americans. Who knows? But that's actually what my favorite thing about America is how young we are as a country. You ever think about that?
Well, we are still an experiment. We're an infant in the world stage.
In such 240 years or something like that? Like I remember, this isn't about Trump, but he said something like, in China, if you go and you find a building that was built in like the 1880s, you're like, oh, it's like a new real estate because it's China's been around forever. Europe, all that, like there's so much history. They
Right.
still have the Colosseum in Rome. Like America, I mean, what's our most historic landmark? I mean,
Well, the oldest distillery is Buffalo Trace in Kentucky.
that's right. Joe Rogan talks about that. There's
That's
this
right.
tree. There's this. I'm in Charleston, South Carolina, and there's this tree, the angel oak tree, and they say that's like the oldest living tree, and it's like really cool looking. And that, I mean,
Isn't that the one with the picture that I've seen pictures of, like things holding
yeah.
braces, holding it up?
Yes. It's actually pretty cool. I think that's more of the appeal rather than how old it is. It's like how cool it looks because it's kind of
Right.
like hanging above the ground. It was near my old house, but like that's not really a landmark. That's a natural thing.
Sure.
But I love that about America. How like it's so young. Like I love America. You love America?
Absolutely. Best country in the world.
What do you love
Hands
about it so
down.
much?
I mean, America is the only country in, I guess, in world history, really. I guess you could make the argument, other than maybe the like modern time UK or modern time Germany, maybe, that has really embraced personal individual freedom. And that, I mean, we see just simple things like with COVID, with mask mandates. I mean, whether you're pro or against, it doesn't matter. There are people who have a very, guttural response to a government or someone who might
Mm-hmm.
not be an elected official, who we can't
Mm-hmm.
hold accountable to democratic process, to say you have to do this thing. No, give me the information, give me the facts
Yeah.
and figures, and then I will decide for myself.
Yeah. That's very American.
Yeah.
Right? Like I love that. I love that. I love our spirit. I mean, sometimes it's like annoying, but like we're all just like, no, freedom, freedom, freedom. And like I think it's a good thing. Here's a good question for you because we can agree that that's the spirit of it, right? So
Right.
people say like China has an advantage on us because they don't have like elections every 4 years
Mhm.
and they can make a 50-year governmental plan and execute it. And that's makes a lot of sense. Us every 4 years we're switching out who's in charge, making a new foreign policy plan, making a new plan. And I do see that argument saying that like China maybe has a better structure there. But like they in order to have that power, they have to like kind of hold people down a little bit, right? And like I feel like a country is people and like I feel like the fact that we constantly get to like yell at our president, get out our like anger. I feel like it's healthier, and I don't know what'll happen in 60 years, but like I feel like our country will be at a healthier state, whether our government made like any plans or not. And I think that we can still compete with China over a long period of time because of that like attitude,
Oh yeah.
the fact that we're healthier like mentally because we can get out our grievances and stuff like that.
The freedom of speech and freedom of the press is probably the most important part of our country. Our ability to protest and criticize the government without having any ramifications. Obviously, there's things that happen, and I mean, probably the best example is MLK fighting for civil rights. The FBI was down his neck because he had so many followers, and they were worried that the power that he was garnering, and they were worried that he might have ties to the Communist Party. Well, who cares? Because at the end of the day, you have freedom of speech. I think the only argument that I could see in favor of how China and other countries run their system and how they're effective at what they're doing with either governing or, I mean, I guess you could say, controlling their people, is that
Yeah.
they're able to do that because they have the same people, the same elites in charge all the time. We have a democratic process where we can change over every 4 to 8 years, depending on who's in power. But there might be an argument for term limits, or how to change that in Congress, and how is 4 years or 8 years enough for a president to do any actual work, especially today. I know Joe Rogan talks about this all the time, is that this one person we expect to do all these things, and they just run on this platform of flowery language, and they
Yeah.
can't. Trump ran basically saying fuck the system, and the
Yeah.
system still exists. So
Yeah. Do you agree with so the other Joe Rogan always says we shouldn't have a president. We should just have like people in charge of each thing and there's no president. And like we kind of do have that, we have departments and we have people in charge of them. But I disagree with him on that always because there's some like human part of us that it's good to have one leader.
mhm.
Like how many companies have two CEOs? Like and it's how many companies have it's good to even if it's just in a figurehead sense. I think it's good to have just one leader of any type of organization. Like a football team has one coach. Like it just makes sense. And I can't completely explain it, but there's something human about it. It's like they take the blame, they take the credit. You can put their head on a stake, like you can fire them. But like there's something about that one person being in charge that I think is just like right.
Well, you need a decision maker, right? You need someone who actually is able to, regardless of social pressure, make the decision that's hard for everyone in the room, and then also accept like accountability and the consequence if that decision was bad. That's why elections exist. That's why protests exist. But I agree that we need a figurehead. I disagree with how much power that figurehead has been given over the course of our history. So the Constitution was designed to allow locales and counties and states to have their own rights and powers, and the federal government, including the president, was really just a facilitatory figurehead who had some power, but not really that much. Nowadays, it's just executive order after executive order, and now we all look to him as like almost, it's like a cultural shift, right? We think that we're going to elect either Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, whoever, and they're going to save us from everything, and the gas prices are going to change tomorrow. That's not how it works. So, and it shouldn't matter for every presidential election, especially this last one. I was so upset with how existential people were treating it, as if they're going to die. America's falling apart. Like, calm down. It doesn't matter that much. Focus on your mayor and your city council. That's what matters.
If you really care, that's what you should be. And I don't even know who the mayor of my town is, honestly. I know the governor of my state, but like, I admit it. And the only thing that the president can actually affect in real life, because you're right. I mean, they have power, and executive orders, I mean, they matter, but still Congress and all the gridlock is probably a good thing. But the one thing they can affect is like in the economy, like the metric, it's like consumer confidence. And like, I think Trump did a good job with that. Like, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best, we're the best. And like, and then if people are spending money, the economy's better, there's more jobs. So that is the one thing that, like, if they can affect the psyche, it can actually make a difference in like the real world. But the rest of the stuff,
well, you're 100% right, because words matter. Rhetoric matters, and
feelings.
Yes, and that's why it's like I agree with you on Trump, but at the same time, he also had a pretty stupid mouth when it came to other things. So it kind of, it worked against him sometimes. He instilled a lot of confidence. My 401k looked amazing for the 4 years he was in office, but I really wish he wouldn't go on Twitter and cuss out people in certain ways. It's like, you know what, social fabric matters too. So how do we instill that? How do we have like an eloquent Obama type speaker with the confidence and the
bravado
of Trump?
Yeah, I agree. Like, let's talk about Trump for a second, just because I voted for him twice, and one of the things that I'm attracted to about him is very, like, I guess, I don't know, American of me is I love saying that I was alive for Tiger Woods, alive for Tom Brady, alive for Elon Musk. Like, he had the potential to be on currency in the future, on Mount Rushmore. I think, like, he had that moment in time, the 2016 election. Like, I know it was divisive, like, but he like, Biden is doing fine, I think, but I don't know if he can be one of the greats of all time. Trump could have been, and I wanted him to be, because I want to say I was alive during that. And that's one thing I liked about him. But I feel like the country's much healthier now. And I know people personally, and I think we even talked about this last time, because it was more closer to after the election, that like voted for him, Trump, and then didn't vote for him the second time for one reason, and it was because they were sick of talking about politics every day in their daily life. And if that's what that person wanted, they have got that. They have it. We're not talking about it as much. We're talking more about cryptocurrency and sports and ideas, and I think that is healthier for the country, and I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't know. I probably don't think about it deep enough. I probably don't think about it from a policy level and all this stuff, but I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, I mean, we are generally, especially if you peel back the layers of what people are actually upset about. We're still the most free country. We have it so good. I mean, perspective matters, right? I know I'm not going to change topics yet, but just as an example for this, timely for everyone right now, Afghanistan's going nuts. I know it's in fashion right now for people to play the victim and use, either race or economic cards and say, oh, how dare you, or you have a privilege or whatever. It's like, you know what, you have the right to say that, and you can go home and tweet that from your phone in the safety of your apartment. There are people in this world who can't even get water, who can't even go to bed without fearing gunfire or mortar shells blowing up their backyard. So there's perspective matters in this. I think the country is, regardless of the president, is lacking that perspective. And
you think this helps give it to him?
I would hope so, but I think we also have a media problem too. The media doesn't know how to report things correctly because they want sensationalized news.
I hate the media.
I do too.
And I think it's such a big problem because people need to know what's going on. So where do they find it out?
My podcasts and Twitter.
Podcasts.
Look at Afghanistan right now. There's a lot of unconventional news sources on the ground who are actually live streaming and tweeting and things as they happen. The Pentagon didn't know what was going on until a little while after, and you on Twitter, it's like there are like hundreds of people who know what's going on because it's all right there. We're all connected. Give me 3 sources that you get your news from. Okay. Well, unconventional or just normal, or in general? In general. In general. It could be Fox. It could be some guy with a phone in Afghanistan. Yeah. So I love Politico. Politico, okay. I find to be generally, straight shooters. Straight shooters. They do a pretty good job. Okay. Reason magazine. They're more of a libertarian, but they're pretty independent. They're pretty no nonsense. I like them. And I'm trying to think of the guy that I follow on Instagram. It starts with a P. It's not. Is it Patrick Bet David? No. I was going to ask you. Do you know who that is? By the way, I only know who he is from watching your podcast. Yeah, dude, he's a podcast now, and I mean, me and him have like the same frame of the world. He's entrepreneur minded, and but he's very he's from Iran. He has a great perspective on the world. He was in the military, and I watch their podcast for news because they talk about. Now it's not as like straight shooting as CNN, boom, story, but they have some news and they talk about it, and I don't know, I like him. If you're still looking up that third one, but here's gonna be my question. I've heard of Politico, I haven't heard of the other one. Okay, what's that? What's that picture up there? That's Reason, or what was that, Pat? Pat just put up a picture on the screen. What was that, Pat? What is that?
That's the media being blind.
Nice, Pat. Where do you get your news?
I get my news from Fox.
Fox
primarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
probably not a good thing.
No.
I mean, the thing about Fox the thing about Fox and CNN and all these places is they aren't literally making up things that don't exist. They are telling you what's happening. They're not making it up, but they do have
it's a sugarcoat.
If it's a boring day, they are going to say something crazy to get you angry. And they have to. Correct. So what I was going to ask you, Allan, is I've heard of Politico. I haven't heard of Reason. How well are those companies doing? Because if they are straight shooting and not trying to sensationalize at all, they're probably not doing great in business.
Well, Politico definitely is. It traffics in some sensationalism. They are a for-profit news organization. But the problem is they do it better. They do pride themselves on being not the CNN, not the Fox of modern times. But they're not my main source. They're my main top source. They're the USA Today, and
they have I feel like when I think of Politico, I think of a really long article with no pictures.
Yeah, sometimes it gets a little policy wonky. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm and when I think of CNN, I think of people on the screen with their faces emotional and a big headline rolling across, and so how interesting is the story? Then
right. Right. They can be hit or miss, but I think they're just generally better than Fox or CNN. So Reason magazine is a magazine from the Reason Foundation, which is a nonprofit policy organization. They're like a think tank, and they're in the liberty movement. They lean libertarian. Think Ron Paul. Think Joe Jorgensen and Spike Cohen and all the libertarian guys who have been kind of in the Justin Amash who've been in the space in the last 10 years. They speak truth to power. They platform people like Tulsi Gabbard who don't have a political home because her own party won't let her speak at debate stages or whatnot because she doesn't like what the status quo of the party is. They want to speak truth to power on things, and it might not be popular at the time. But Reason's pretty good at that, and they're doing well as far as in the movement. But as far as like what they could be making, obviously they're
Right.
They're
And
not
I mean,
grifting.
yeah. I mean, you said nonprofit. Someone on here said Reuters. That sounds familiar.
Reuters. They again hit or miss. They can be good.
Yeah, but it's like, I mean, I hate the news because I've talked about this like 3 or 4 times in my podcast. Like my mom, I love her. She watches the news and she didn't think of the stuff that she's telling us to do. She heard it from the news and like she gets caught up in a headline and like she got nothing else to do, but like that is a huge market. People sitting at their houses with nothing to do and the news wants to freak you out. And I had, Dave Rubin.
Yes.
I had him on my podcast and
Yeah, I saw that.
we had a good conversation. And one thing I brought up was hurricanes, like not a political thing, but news loves them. News loves them because it's just something else they can freak you out about. And maybe they're right. I mean, you should be careful about hurricanes. Like, so it's just on a days where they have a show at 6:30 and there's no thing that is really noteworthy. They still got to have something.
Well, here's the biggest problem is that, and this kind of ties to COVID too, is that you have a report that comes out and the headline is this fear-mongering, well-written headline that grabs your attention. It's clickbait. And sometimes you won't even click on it. You'll read the headline, you'll share it to a friend, and your mind will be made up just from the headline. The headline might say, COVID vaccine not as effective as once thought. Even though that's not true, the article kind of goes more into depth and extrapolates it more. So now that someone shares that and they think, oh, it's not effective. And then another report comes out a month later disputing everything in that article and gives you more information. And 9 times out of 10, the person who shared that initial article with that one headline isn't going to go back and reread that one article and isn't going to even read or even believe the new headline on the new article, even if it's from the same station. They're going to be like, they're just trying to cater to the conspiracy theorists. So it's like when we have lack of trust, we don't understand how to actually engage in science and hypotheses, and if things change, things evolve. If you find out someone killed someone and it was a wrongful conviction 10 years later, that a lot of people are still going to believe that, well,
right,
was he? So
and meanwhile, this hypothetical article that you're talking about, the person who wrote it is crushing it. Everyone's sharing it, everyone's talking about it, like people are clicking on it, they got some pop-up ads, so like that's going to entice them to do that again next time, and then the whole thing starts again.
Exactly.
And it's like, I don't know, should be in charge of the news. Like,
well, so real quick, I just thought of it. It's Popular Front. Popular Front. So foreign affairs. He's former paramilitary. He does a lot of stuff on the ground. He's pretty good.
All right, I got a comment here. There's a couple that I missed about the death penalty and stuff, but someone said it's also people want to easy consume material. Yeah. Where they research podcasts, your guys, you need a level of mental endurance after the long haul. That's absolutely true.
Right.
That's absolutely true.
Isn't that kind of crazy that we have people either have an attention span of like 2 minutes on a video shared by some news platform, or they have an attention span for like 3.5 hours on a Joe Rogan podcast.
Right.
Nothing in between. There's nothing in between.
Hey, my podcast is only 1 hour, but yeah, I mean, it's not always about, current events. Like I love talking about business. It's my favorite thing.
Absolutely.
But so let's talk about I'll let you pick. You either want to talk about COVID or Afghanistan.
Let's go Afghanistan. It's the most recent and open wound right now.
All right, Afghanistan. So last time I talked to you, you looked way different. You had a big Civil War beard. I don't know why everyone during the Civil War had a beard like that, but by the way, I tried to grow a beard like a couple of days ago, and I gave up a couple of days in because it just looks terrible. But you're looking fresh. You're looking good. And when I asked you about it before we started, you said you are in the National Guard.
Correct. Yeah. So okay. I joined the National Guard. It's actually today is my year anniversary in the National Guard.
Oh, congratulations.
So I'm in the National Guard in Pennsylvania. I'm currently waiting, kind of in the wings, waiting for officer candidate school to start. So I'll commission as an officer and be a second lieutenant, and then rank up from there. But
all right, and we're talking about Afghanistan, but National Guard is within the domestic borders, correct?
So yes, primarily. So the National Guard would be the ones who deploy for like a Katrina level event or natural disaster, or like the riots that happened over the summer in DC. But that doesn't mean that I'm safe from deployment anywhere else. So there are National Guardsmen currently, special forces, or just a support group that they're in Syria, they're in Afghanistan. They exist out there too.
That makes sense. Before a draft, pull in other people like that, National Guard. Okay, so but I know because of that, you're in the forces, I guess. But then also you have a podcast where you love talking about politics.
Yep.
You said you're pretty informed on this Afghanistan situation.
Yeah, I'm
Like-
still learning more, of course, because
Like I'm not that informed. So let me tell you what I know, and then you tell me everything.
yeah.
Like, all right. So I have not heard the phrase Taliban since like I was in like George Bush era. Like I forgot about the Taliban. I haven't been thinking about it. Oh shit, yo, look at that picture up. Dude, those guys look like I'm trying to, oh my god, like they look kind of like, they're probably like mid-20s, early 30s, like, they're obviously trying to look cool for that. Damn. So they I mean, they're trying to be badasses or whatever. But
Right.
okay, so the Taliban is they took over recently, and they just like walked in and no one fought against them. And like, did the Taliban stands for like Sharia law and stuff like that?
Yeah, essentially, the Taliban basically want to implement a very extreme version of Islam and force people to abide by what they want. Now, just so you know, because I think probably the one you're more familiar with recently would be ISIS.
Yeah.
ISIS and ISIS-K. ISIS-K is basically a
I
derivative
just started
of
hearing
ISIS.
ISIS-K. Okay, so it's like not ISIS, but ISIS-K.
ISIS-K is essentially just for layman's terms, it's the Afghanistan derivative of ISIS.
Was there an ISIS A B C D E F G H I J?
No, ISIS-K stands for a region.
Gotcha.
Kurhan. I think
Gotcha.
I'm pronouncing it wrong, but it's in Afghanistan.
Gotcha. Okay. So I basically told you everything I know already. But like, okay, so just ISIS and the Taliban, do they like each other? ISIS-K
No.
and the Taliban?
Right. So no. So the ISIS and ISIS-K, for this argument, they're the same people, but just in different regions. They believe the Taliban and Al Qaeda are not strict enough when it comes to their laws.
Okay.
So you probably saw the news, the most recent news out of Afghanistan yesterday in Kabul, outside the airport. There were a couple IED explosions, killed 12 Marines and one Navy corpsman. Tragic stuff.
And so terrible.
And that was ISIS.
All the families.
Absolutely.
They're heroes.
Yeah, it's a tough situation, but that was ISIS-K. Taliban, love them or hate them, and obviously we should hate them because they're terrible, terrible, terrible. But they have been allowing, in this weird way, us to kind of secure the airport and get our people out, because I think the Taliban stands to gain from us leaving and peacefully. So they're saying, okay, US, we're going to set up a perimeter around the airport and y'all get your guys out. Well, ISIS-K has been saying, hey, Taliban, fuck you. You should start doing this and like just kill them. Fuck them.
Yeah.
And that's what ISIS did. And so there's more attacks. There are still executions and things happening from the Taliban, because the Taliban, they're not an organized military. The Taliban is just a bunch of guys. So there are commanders.
This might be a dumb question, but like how many?
I think Taliban is about 70,000 strong.
Okay, that's pretty good.
Well, and this is the thing, is that this is what happened, is that the Afghan National Army, who we've been training and arming for the last 20 years, building up their ability to defend their country and have their own government, they were 300,000 strong with our weapons and our resources and our special forces trainers, the best of the best. The Taliban walked in after we decided to pull out, and the Afghan National Army just pretty much gave up. And we're not really sure why. We're still learning, and there's a lot to extrapolate there.
How many people do they have? The Afghan National Army?
About 300,000.
You said that 300,000. That's a lot. That's more. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
real quick, why should we hate the Taliban?
Well,
because
I
think I know, but I mean, ISIS wants to kill America. Women can't drive. They hate gays. Is it kind of the same reasons why we wouldn't like the Taliban?
Yes. Yeah. The Taliban isn't as ruthless. They're still ruthless, but they're not as ruthless or horrible as ISIS.
Okay. They're a little maybe more like, what's that word for like civilized or not civilized, like democratic, or like the word where like you get along, diplomatic. They're a little more diplomatic.
Yeah, the Taliban has allowed open channels of conversations. Not that we should trust them, but we have been able to communicate with them. ISIS, For the most part, they don't give a shit, and
So do you think the Taliban's mad at ISIS-K for that attack?
probably not. But they probably are like, oh, cool, they did it for us. And they did it for us. Cool, Americans died, and the Americans can't blame us, and we can continue doing what we're doing. So that's what makes it frustrating, because right.
Are they? So they don't try to kill each other?
Oh yeah, no. That after
They do?
I predict once we leave, we're out of there for good. Once we get all our people out that we can, there's going to be probably a pretty big civil war between what's left of ISIS-K and ISIS, and if there are any resistance from the Afghan National Army who aren't going to lay their arms down and want to fight back, and the Taliban.
So the Afghan National Army, that's like the one that we were or whatever behind. Like
Yes.
they are the democracy. They're like the good guys from our frame of mind.
Yeah, they're
And how many people do they have?
The ANA, the Afghan National Army, 300,000.
300,000 for the Afghan National Army.
Yep.
70,000 for
the Taliban.
Taliban and ISIS-K. How many?
I'm not sure on ISIS-K. I think it's small.
Okay, like maybe 5,000, maybe 20,000.
Probably around there.
Okay. Whew, but that's like so. Okay, so 20 years, America. We've had our fingertips in there, and just keep telling me the story.
Well, I mean, we all know why we went there, right? We went there to hunt down and destroy Al Qaeda and get Osama bin Laden, and it was kind of
Post 9/11 anger.
Right.
Let's cut up.
Yep. So it was kind of half retribution, half trying to make sure that we secure the rest of the world from other terrorist attacks to that scale, and stand up and say, hey, this is not, we can't condone this. Obviously, we know we can't stop little local bombings and small things that happen. That's going to happen. The world is brutal. But for a level like crashing 2 planes, commercial jets into tall buildings in a massive metropolitan city,
that's
obviously, that's messed up. So how the hell?
200 members, 2,000 members. Okay.
Awesome. I didn't know that. Learned something new. But so we went in, and it took 10 years to get Osama bin Laden. And then 10 more years go by, and we justified it basically because we wanted to get, we wanted to make sure that we could have the Afghanistan National Army stand on their own legs and help. We wanted to get out at some point, of course. And I think every president since Bush has said that we're going to pull out and we're going to draw down troops. The problem, though, is that, we could, in hindsight, we could all criticize us being in the Middle East period, but you made your bed. Now you got to lay in it. We can't just rip the rug out from underneath people. And now that might create a security concern for us.
So like in a perfect world, we go over there, we defend, we train, we teach them how to run a democracy. We're there. We help their people learn how to read. We help their people learn how to vote. We help their people learn how to start businesses. We help the people. And then 20 years later, we leave and they say, thank you, America. We are now on our own 2 feet. We have a strong military. We have a strong democracy. The voice of the people are being heard. And now we are the democracy of Afghanistan, and we are essentially like Americanized. That would be the perfect situation. That's what we wanted.
I think that's what we wanted in the beginning. I think we learned pretty quick that they don't want democracy.
Okay.
Their
That's
value
so
system.
weird.
Their value system. This goes to your point earlier. We are so young. Other countries have thousands of years of culture behind them. So they're a patriarchy. They respect power and men and people who are decision makers and whatnot. So if someone comes in and kills the president and then takes the throne of president, everyone cheers and says, oh, this man is strong. We want him to be in power.
There's like something human nature about that. Russia's like that. Yep. There is something human nature about the strong man rule. So they're like that. And if their parents told them like that's how the world is, like we have that in this country on both sides. Like people are stuck in their ways. Like that's how it's always been. And this person's not going to be the one on their watch to see their country turn into some flimsy democracy. Like that's their point of view.
Right. And obviously, we could sit here and debate whether or not freedom is healthier for human beings. I would argue that it is, but that doesn't mean that we can just walk in there and set up a new democracy and force it on them. And hey, you have to vote for your president. You can't just appoint him. It's like, well,
yeah. Also, people don't like to be told what to do. That's also human nature.
Exactly.
No one likes to be told what to do.
Right.
Oh, I'm not going to listen to these fucking Americans.
Right.
Like I would probably do the same thing.
Well, and they have an effective wing of PR in a lot of these terrorist groups that showcase the gluttony and the overconsumption that Americans have. That it's like, okay, Americans can go, get hammered, eat 4 cheeseburgers, go to a strip club, and then do cocaine and not have any issues. But we can't even find clean water. Fuck them. And so it's like,
do you think in that propaganda they play Cardi B WAP?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah, I mean, probably like this is how they represent their women.
Yeah,
like I mean, if you're gonna rip on us, like there's some stuff, yeah, for sure.
That's the thing is that we look at them and how they treat their women as disrespectful. They see it as the highest form of respect because that's how they want their culture to be, and how their religious texts are probably misinterpreted or over fundamentalized. But at the same time, we have to understand the why and the how. We can't go over there and say, your women must wear bikinis if they want to. Well, maybe they don't want to, and it's tough. It's a very dynamic situation.
Dang.
So, but Afghanistan as it stands now is it's. I mean, we can criticize and point the finger at whoever we want. The problem is it's going to be messy, and we don't know how to.
Yeah.
I mean, we could be armchair quarterbacks all the live long day, but I'm not. I don't know.
Of course. So the experiment or whatever, we got Bin Laden. Great. Like honestly, fuck him. And then it kind of failed. Like it didn't really work. Like I think we should come back. I mean, it doesn't seem like it's working. But nation building, for me to use a big term, that never works, right?
No, it has never worked for us.
Has it ever never for the history of our young country? It's never worked.
The only time it's worked is when we've annexed the country we were trying to get, which Hawaii. We took over Hawaii and now they're a state. So, we didn't. But no, I mean, other than territories like Panama and Guam, but again, they're under our thumb. We own them essentially. We've never been able to go into a country and instill a democracy in the way that we want it to be instilled,
and then
always backfired, and then leave.
Yeah. It's like a girl who's like trying to, like you get your buddy and like you can't get girls, and then you're like trying to help him out, and you try to teach him everything you want. Do this, wear this, and then you leave and you expect him to go like get girls. You still can't. Like, it's damn. So it's never worked, and so we should leave them, right? So we had to leave.
Yeah.
And how would we leave in a good way? Didn't Trump start this, right?
Yes.
Trump was like said, let's leave.
Yeah, Trump started the leave. He had signed a deal, if you want to call it a deal, with the Afghan National Army and the Taliban to say, hey, this is what we're going to do. By May 31st, I think we were going to pull out. We've extended it since. Now it's to August 31st, so we have about 4 days until that deadline. The problem with how this was executed, and without pointing fingers, because I think it's more than just the president. There's more people who are having hands on the wheel. There are advisors. There are people who, they're doing their best, and we don't know all the intel. We don't know what information they had. Maybe it had to be done this way, and we don't know. But I'll reserve that criticism. The problem, the optics, of course, though, it looks like we just left and didn't tell anyone, and then we stranded a bunch of our American allies and the Afghan people who were helping us. So, and then of course all of our equipment, a bunch of armament, weapons and ammunition, and then Humvees and Blackhawks and whatnot. There's viral videos of the Taliban having access to all these things that we didn't either destroy or take with us. So I think they made a calculated decision on how was the best way to leave without going into another war. And if it meant leaving a bunch of equipment behind, then, just from my brief experience and people who I know in the military, that equipment wasn't top tier, amazing stuff. It's stuff that sometimes we have trouble keeping up, and it's overused. It's in a harsh environment that's been running through sand. Those Blackhawks are not in pristine shape, and they don't know how to use them. So it's not like they're all.
As long as they don't attack us with them, then
and they don't have the know-how.
Can't make it over the ocean or whatever. So there's comment here, spiral dynamics, which is like a whole different topic, but basically you can't go into the country and change it. It takes generations of brainwashing, maybe 100 years to get each generation on board. And yeah, who says our way's right? I mean, I like it. I certainly like it. I think girls like it. I mean, dude, honestly, my wife, like, amazing woman. I love her. Obviously, run my company. Like, she kind of like sometimes she says like, I like the 1950s. Like, I don't know, I wouldn't mind being like a house mama. And she doesn't, like, given the freedom. She helps run this company. She's an entrepreneur, but like, I see the little bit of like human nature in her that's like, if I'm the housewife and I don't got to do anything and worry about shit, like, that's fine with me. Like, there is a little bit of, women and men are different.
Well, people like direction, right? People sometimes like being, they don't, ultimate freedom and ultimate independence is such a massive responsibility. You have to have
I like it, but it's hard.
But this is to your credit, Sean, because you're an entrepreneur. You're motivated to wake up all the time and go to the grind and kick ass and build a brand.
It's exhausting, but I've like trained myself to like it. So now my exhaustion turns into excitement. So it's like an ongoing thing. And I mean, something I'm looking out for myself. A lot of people have warned me like about burnout, and I mean, I'm already planning for it, and I'm going to beat that too. But like, yes, it is. I can understand why a lot of people like to just be told what to do and do it. Like, I get it.
Yeah. Right. I mean, I probably the majority of people, which, I mean, I guess is okay for you because you need people to work for you. But it's like at the same time, if everyone could be an entrepreneur or build brands or social entrepreneurs to help, solve social issues like homelessness, that's great. We all can thrive off that. But we have this instinctual thing in our brain where we want to submit and allow for just simple direction. And
so someone commented on Instagram, I think some women like it and some don't. And like, that sucks for the women who don't like it, because maybe they are born and their natural proclivity is to, like, be an entrepreneur, be like a Madonna or a Cardi B or a Sarah Blakely, the CEO of Spanx, like, and they can't have that. That sucks. That sucks for them. I never want to hold down like people against gay marriage. I don't think there's really anyone anymore, but like, imagine being gay and like not being able to, like, it's just, I don't like holding people down. Like, that sucks. And like, they are doing that in countries like that. And maybe they have to live with that.
Yeah. And at what point, is it our job? And this is actually a larger question. And a question I'll be answering on my podcast with some veterans from other podcasts that we're doing collaboration on in October, discussing interventionism. At what point is the United States or other Western cultures like the UK and Germany who have caught up with us and have the cultural freedoms and ideas that we have, at what point is it our job to go into other countries that have these issues, that have issues like they're throwing gay people off of buildings and killing them? They're stoning women in the streets if they show their ankles, if they show their face. Is there a time when we say, you know what, this is reaching levels that we cannot allow for or stand for in humanity, and we have to go in there and kick some butt? I mean, the age-old question is, look at World War II. We didn't go in because of the Holocaust. We found out about the Holocaust when we got there,
way later.
Right. So would it have always taken Pearl Harbor for us to get involved in World War II? Or if we found out about the Holocaust and the extent of what was going on to the Jewish people, would we then say, oh shit, okay, we have to go there? Because right now, North Korea is pretty shitty, and we haven't done anything because we're so tied to China. What do we do?
I mean, I don't think it's really our job. I mean, even if it was our job, we couldn't do it fairly, and we can't even do it to start with, and then we also couldn't do it fairly. You can't like start doing it and then okay, what about this example? What about this example? You can't. Dude, let's take care of our own country. And like, the one thing that does matter though is if ISIS or whatever wants to kill us, then we gotta protect ourselves. Like, if they just hate Americans, like, we got to do, if we got to go in there to protect ourselves, which was kind of like World War II. World War II wasn't a humanitarian thing, and Pearl Harbor was the spark. But like, we were scared that Hitler was going to take over all of Europe, then England, then attack the beaches of Virginia Beach. And like, he wanted to. So like, we did the right thing, and we won. So it's a great story.
Right.
But like, we can't go after everyone with human rights issues. I don't know. I'm sure people have a different opinion.
A lot of times too is that this is sometimes unfortunately synthesized by ourselves. 9/11 didn't happen just out of nowhere. There's a reason why they attacked us. We had been fucking around in the Middle East and having, situations that the Taliban. This little bit of history, and you can look up more context later. But the Taliban was effectively armed by Ronald Reagan in the 80s. And it wasn't because we wanted them to become a terrorist group. It was because we had interests in the Middle East to fight back against the Russians. It was basically a proxy war because the Soviets at the time had been messing around in Afghanistan. And they failed too because the Soviets didn't understand this Afghanistan, and we don't understand Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a quagmire of culture. So, we had messed around so much in that area. We had been disproportionately helping other cultures and divisions of groups and the Shiites and Sunnis, that whole thing in Muslim culture. And then it gave rise to Al Qaeda and Osama bin Laden to be an actual organized crime syndicate in the Middle East to say, death to the United States. We're going to organize an attack. And they did. So I'm not saying 9/11 is our fault, but 9/11 didn't happen out of nowhere. There's consequence to meddling in other countries.
And imagine like you are a kid and you're 11 and the United States kills your dad. Like you are going to, for the rest of your life, possibly like seek revenge and like be like, let's go fucking kill New York City. Like, let's do it.
The best way to defeat an enemy is to outspend them and just let them drown in their own vengeance and retribution. So it's been tough for us because obviously after 9/11 we were so hell-bent on fixing this problem and snuffing out terrorism. But terrorism is an idea. You're always going to have terrorists. We have our own terrorists in our backyard here in this country who are American citizens who do awful things. So I think the point though is to get in there and try to make sure we aren't allowing these large groups to become an organized thing that actually become a threat to our country. But it's tough because cultures are going to clash. It's the world. You can't get rid of evil. Evil's always going to exist.
Dang. So we were talking about like the Black Hawks and like, all right, so we left the equipment. Like, you think they're going to attack us? Like, I mean, like you said, they can't. Like, so like, so I think we did the right thing. Is it sloppy? Yes. In 2 weeks, there'll be a nip slip and everyone talk about something else probably. And I'm just thinking of something stupid that would like take over the headlines. Like, we will in a couple weeks. This will not be as prevalent as it is now, and it was a sloppy, yes, but like I think it was probably the right thing to get out of there, and like it was not well done. And those people died, and that's not cool at all. But no one else is going to die if we're out, right?
Well, I mean, that's the thing is that there's a lot of intel we don't know. There's a lot of things that we don't know what's going to happen. It's very frustrating right now optically that the administration seems to be trusting or at least allowing the Taliban to make demands, and we're allowing them to kind of do things and take over the country. But at the same time, what's the other path? Is it to go in there and just take back control of Afghanistan, what we've been doing for 20 years?
The same problem, yeah.
And I don't know. I think there's a lot of things we don't know, and I think, as long as the Taliban understands that they have probably a good reason to allow us to leave, it's in their best interest to take over the country. Then ISIS and the other groups at play might have their own. It's their own thing. It's your job to take care of it, but. The sloppy outcome is what the problem is, and the optics and the seemingly like we aren't getting people out fast enough. There's been claims of messing around. I don't know.
Getting out is kind of bipartisan on its own, right?
I would say generally, yeah.
All right. I got two other thoughts on this. One is, do you think Trump could have done better? And it's a weird question because like it's hard to know. I do think he was pretty good at foreign affairs because I just had on my podcast Robert Greene, the author of the book The 48 Laws of Power, which is one of my favorite books. And like he talks about creating an air of unpredictability, like the fear of I don't know. Like I feel like Trump was good at foreign affairs because he did that thing. He was just like, I don't know, maybe they will like freaking nuke us. Like, and that little bit of fear maybe held them back. I'm not. Do you think he could have done any better, or is that an impossible question?
I think, it's impossible because hindsight's 2020. We don't know the outcome of Biden, of what the Biden administration is doing yet. We don't know that. This is just, we're in the middle of it, right?
We don't know. There could be something that comes out that turns out that the Biden administration did it perfectly.
Yeah, there might be something that says in 20 years that there was no other option, and this is the best outcome. Even though we lost, 13 service members yesterday, that might not be, that might have been the best case scenario, unfortunately, and just the way that this worked. But as far as Trump, I will say that just from a conjecture standpoint, I think that he would have been better at sounding strong. I don't know, foreign policy aside, I think when it came to foreign affairs, he was pretty good at sounding and having better optics.
Yeah.
President Biden gave a speech yesterday, and I thought for the most part it's fine, but but it came across as so sluggish and slow. And I think he was trying to be calm, and he was trying to relate to the families and say, I'm so sorry, and very somber. But at the same time, it didn't give me those George W. Bush vibes from 9/11, the speech that like ramped us all together. And it's like, I think Trump had that capability.
That's Biden. That's Biden.
So it's tough to answer. I don't know. I think either way, a pull out of Afghanistan is going to be tough no matter what. There's a lot that civilians don't know. There's a lot that the military doesn't know, or the media doesn't know. There's lots of the military don't know. I mean, there are special forces for a reason who have security clearances above my boss's 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 boss. There's nothing that we can really know and say, oh yeah, if it would have been a Democrat or Republican, we would have been better off.
Right. Right.
I think it's an unfair question for Biden.
Right. I agree. Like we have, and you just taught me now that there's a lot more to come, a lot more to learn. Like, I mean, it's just happening. It hasn't happened. There's no looking back yet. And my second question kind of brings us back into the States. It's like, Bill Maher. Do you like Bill Maher?
I love Bill Maher.
I don't agree
with him on everything, but I love him.
Dude, I kind of like agree with him on everything. Like, except for like the Trump-Russia collusion stuff he goes into. Like, that always confused the hell out of me. I don't believe in that. But like, dude, I watch his show and like I can't help but being like, damn, if I have to like pick a person that I would like trust their opinion on, like, I don't know, I'm like center right a little bit. Like, I just love Bill Maher. I think he's awesome. But
oh, sorry. I was just going to say, what makes Bill Maher so great is that he's not afraid to chide back at what he considers his own party, cancel culture, and the dumb shit that's going on in liberal land, because he is a liberal.
Yeah,
he is a liberal. He's a left Democrat, but
100%.
He cannot stand the dumb shit that they have been.
And it sounds so good coming from him, maybe to me, because like I know that the left's listening to him, right? And I'm just like, it's so refreshing, like a breath of fresh air. So I love Bill Maher, but he was talking about, and other people too, all the money that Americans are making in Washington D.C. and like, and he talked about it a lot. How like, yeah, we want to stay there because people are making money, and I don't really get exactly what that means. It's basically like, we're in Afghanistan. Here's a bunch of money from the federal budget. And like he said, it trickles down to those fancy neighborhoods outside of Washington. And I guess exactly how?
Yeah, well, so lobby groups are a big one. So defense contractors who stand to make lots of money from war because we need equipment. We need Humvees. We need a big one is Oshkosh Defense, actually from my home state of Wisconsin. Oshkosh Defense makes a lot of stuff, and the military buys things from these defense contractors, and we can only buy from the people that Congress allows us to buy from. So these defense contractors go door to door during lobby sessions and say, hey, we have the best, let's say Humvee, or the best pistol that you could ever get, so you should buy ours and use this as standard issue for your operations.
Where do they manufacture all this shit?
I mean, everywhere.
In America?
Yeah, most of it's in America.
Okay, I mean that makes sense because the government would want to give jobs to people. So all right, so they're just cleaning up, and like I'm sure like the price is there's enough room for some profits.
Oh yeah, there's kickbacks. It's the same style as if you're in college and your teacher says, hey, buy my book because I want you to read out of my book during class. The teacher then gets a kickback from the sale of that publication. So it's the same thing. It trickles down. Decisions aren't made tactically in Congress. They're made based on money. What makes you the most money? What makes them most popular with your, I mean, think about it. If you have constituents in, let's say Wisconsin, as Oshkosh Defense is in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin senators are going to start vying for you and say, we want them to get the contract with the United States military. Well, that stands to make them more power because they get reelected because they've helped me out as a constituent. So just all these backroom deals, these back channel money-making procedures. It's a lot of greed. I mean, it
Yeah.
has to exist. We want people
And
to do
and
those
and it and
things,
it
but
does help. It does help that line worker in Wisconsin.
yep, absolutely.
So like, all right.
It's tough.
Yo, Pat, you gotta ask a question next because I got to piss.
All right, I'll take
Yo,
over for a couple
Pat's really
seconds.
smart and has yeah. Go at it. I got to piss.
All right, go ahead, Orville. All right, jumping in for a couple minutes. Wait, so I saw like this one thing earlier today that it was basically saying that the UK, if we were to go to war today, that they wouldn't support like kind of like siding and like aligning with us if it was under Biden's administration. Did you see anything like that come out today?
I didn't. Is
Yeah,
that
so
a
it was
thing?
like, yeah, I guess so. I mean, obviously not from like one of the leaders, but I guess from like some members in the parliament would be like, if this happened to go like today, we're not siding with the U.S. under this Biden administration. Like, what would your thoughts be if like that actually like went through, if they actually went through with that, and like we found ourselves in a war without kind of Britain as our ally?
That's a good question. I mean, we would probably, it's a special relationship we have with the UK.
Yeah,
If we didn't have
the
them in our
valuable
corner,
one too.
the valuable one.
Yeah.
I mean, my hot take is the UN, the United Nations, is worthless. It's a diplomatic optic that doesn't really do much. It doesn't do anything
Okay.
to help anyone. But the UK, Germany, France, Australia, these are probably the big players that are in our corner in Western civilization as far as democracy is concerned.
For sure.
If we were to go to war without the UK, or at least their support or their blessing, we would probably stand to ruin our standing on the diplomatic stage of the world. And I don't know if we would continue or want to go about that. We probably wouldn't. I don't think our top advisors would want to do anything
that would not
without
be
the blessing.
ideal. Also, like if they backed out and didn't support us, do you think that that decision would also influence France, Germany, Australia, and the other surrounding companies?
Absolutely. I think they would side with,
because I feel like they're a key part of like kind of what we are, like our influence over in Europe, and
Right.
I feel like they're probably the leading cause in that. And if they backed out, I feel like it would just be like a domino effect, which would ultimately suck. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, what? Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. Well, I mean, with the topic of Afghanistan, there's reports coming out that the administration or our officials didn't properly inform the UK of what we were doing, and that include. I mean, also there's German forces over there too. Germany just evacuated, I think, yesterday. But
right,
if we're not communicating with our allies because we're not even sure what we're doing, or if we're not really sure about the plan, and we're just doing it because it gets us out of the war. We can't do something in a methodical manner. We're going to have their lives are going to be lost. And that's the argument of what happened yesterday is that we didn't do this correctly. And because we didn't allow the UK and Germany to be a part of this conversation, we kind of fucked everyone over. So,
and I think that's probably the leading cause on why they're super upset with the administration.
Yeah,
because it's kind of like going over there, creating chaos, like stirring up the pot, and then kind of like exploiting and rushing everything.
Right.
And which creates like a sense of chaos, and we're seeing the effects of it now. And also the reason why these parliament members are pissed at us, and rightfully so.
Right.
I mean, I would be too.
I mean, they've been pissed with us too for the duration of the pandemic. We've been slow to report and help out with certain things. So it's more than just Afghanistan.
Let me say from a non-political standpoint, I love the British people. I love Britain, dude. They're so.
They're not fond of us right now. I was just telling them.
Well, yeah, Scotland is the best. Let's just be honest.
There you go.
Take a sip, baby. I just love how they say rubbish instead of garbage, and I love how they say like silly shit like bathers and instead of
they think suits. It's like equally as ridiculous though, like what we say.
And they come first.
That's true.
They did burn down the White House in 1812.
I saw something the other day that the Southern accent is like, I wish I could I had a video prepared, but like the Southern accent is derived from Great Britain, but it's like slowed down. That's why they call it the Southern draw. Because if you listen to like a British accent, it's kind of like fast and upbeat. But if you like slow it down, it sounds like a Southern accent.
Really?
It's crazy. I'll send you both the video after this is over.
Yeah.
If I can find it, I'll actually share it up.
Oh,
That's
hilarious.
awesome. I mean, like,
It's kind of crazy because everyone thinks like it's like, I don't know. Everyone has like a racial like stereotype about the South, but in reality, this is like the South is derived from Great Britain, and like their accent is like from them, but it's just kind of like slowed down a little bit.
I never heard that. I never like heard that. And the one thing I think of with the Southern accent is like the word y'all.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll never say that.
I don't think, I mean, I'm not like, actually, I am kind of against saying it, but I've lived here for 6 years now. I'm from the North. And yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't sound smart.
Okay.
You know?
I like you guys, which makes no sense.
I say
it's like I have a group of guys and girls. I'm like, what's up, guys? Like,
so I'm most of my dad's side is actually from Mississippi, northern Mississippi, and so a lot of my childhood was spent in Mississippi, and I have this weird quasi Midwestern Wisconsin. You up there in the Yooper, go Packers, go. I have that accent, but I also have some words that I just instinctually go to a Southern draw. I say y'all all the time. I have kind of but I'm weird.
Yeah, and that Wisconsin's kind of like a little Canadian, a little.
Yeah,
that's cool. All right, shit. This question here.
Yeah.
January 6th. Was it an insurrection? If so, what made an insurrection? What does Allan think? We can all agree it was a terrible day and people should go to jail. I mean, don't know. Hey, Nico, don't you don't know what we think. But all right, what's your opinion on January 6th?
January 6th. So it is just because this is a fun little tidbit. Where I live in the country, I'm 20 minutes outside of DC proper. So when January 6th happened, it was right in my backyard. And I went and visited DC and I had a friend that was visiting me, and we went and kind of pawed around on looked at all the monuments, but there were fences and things where it was like a post-apocalyptic scene. National Guardsmen, the perimeter of the Capitol building, boarded up windows and stuff, things you would never think you'd see it in the nation's capital. There used to be a day when you could actually walk up the steps of the Capitol building and basically knock on the door. Those days are gone. To this day, there's still a fence that's pretty far back from the Capitol and the White House and all this stuff. But was it an insurrection? I don't know the definition that I want to use for insurrection. I think insurrection is good to use in this context because it was such a bad situation that we should never allow to happen. There's no place for violence and mob rule to run in and bust into a federal building because they disagree with an election based on false claims and conspiracies. So, there's a lot of reports about there's Antifa people who were a part of it, and that's all been debunked. I have family members and friends who voted for Trump and are Trump supporters. They aren't this cultish wing of people who will ride or die for Trump. And I think those type of people in our political culture, Trump or Biden, Clinton or Bernie, I don't care who you voted for. If you are in such this cultish ideology that you believe that they are the savior or vice versa, if you think they're the devil, you're missing the entire point of politics. You're missing the conversation. Right. It's a non-starter. So was it an insurrection? Yeah, I think it was an attack on our nation and our election system.
All right. So if I were going to be a devil's advocate, what about all the riots during the George Floyd thing? Was that? I mean, that was more violent, but it wasn't at a government building, I guess.
Sure. I think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think they're both bad. They're both bad. I think protests are fine. Obviously, victimless things like burning some trash in the street, I don't agree with. That's probably bad. Don't do that. But once it gets to the point when you're throwing rocks through a business's window and stealing things and looting, and especially if it's just a bunch of people who are taking advantage of the situation, like how many of those who were actually looting from that Target on that live stream we saw when that first came out, they were just doing it because they could. They weren't doing it because of social justice. They weren't doing it because they were mad at what happened to George Floyd. They were doing it just because there were too many things going on, and the police made a tactical decision to not arrest and fire on and you know, do things to those people, because what are you going to do? Are you going to mow down 30 civilians? That's going to be bad. That's same with the Capitol building. The Capitol building, I know, has countermeasures. I know they have mounted anti-aircraft weapons on the roof. If they wanted to fucking destroy those crowds, they could have. But to what end would that be good?
I agree in both senses. Just killing everyone in the crowds is not good.
No, that makes the whole country look bad.
Yeah, and during the whole riots, like I didn't agree with them or whatever, but I was just thinking in my head, yo, that looks pretty fun. Like,
really?
Seriously, I mean, imagine you running through a Target, grab whatever you want. It's like supermarket sweep.
I know. I need new shoes. Like, I thought
I'm not denying that. Like the people that like it was kind of fun. Look kind of fun.
Well, in both situations, people did die. In the riots, there were people that were shot and killed.
Way to make me look like a jerk.
No, I didn't. Sean wants the peaceful riots.
Yeah, no.
Hey,
I mean,
I found.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I found the video. What I was referencing before.
How long is it? How long is it? How long is it? Throw it up if it's short.
It's like 2 minutes.
Throw up a piece of it.
Okay. You'll get the point a little bit.
All right. And we're showing off our crazy technology skills.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, here we go.
But the primary reason, most people don't realize that the American Southern accent is not a sign of ignorance, but actually the fact that, according to linguists, we're the only people left in the United States who generally still sound like our ancestors. Because if you listen to native-born Southern speakers, the average Southerner tends to sound more like this, what we call this Moonlight Magnolia's drawl, because if you speed up that Southern drawl, over time it rapidly becomes a British accent. Most people don't realize that people that came here from Europe were largely from the United Kingdom. So when they got here, this was more along the lines of their speaking tones. But that's the first and second generations coming off the boats, not their children. By the third and fourth generations, the kids don't quite sound like mum and dad anymore because they're starting to develop a slight elongation of the way they talk. What's today called the Virginia Tidewater accent. It's not a complete southern drawl because that's a port area. But as you go farther into the southern interior and the years progress, the accent tends to get thicker, deeper, richer. By Arkansas, Alabama, Georgia, heck yeah, you got a full-blown southern drawl. But people don't realize that in most cases in Louisiana, many of the native speakers don't sound like that. They tend to sound like this, I guarantee, especially around the bayou. Because you speed up that South Louisiana Cajun Creole accent, over time it becomes en français, French. With, of course, certain exceptions in New Orleans, which tend to sound like more like New Yorkers because of the Irish and the Sicilian Italian influence. So they tend to sound a bit more like this. And people tend to get a little confused because they think, what, you from New York? Nah, I'm from New Orleans. Why? So you have to realize that at the end of the day, Southern speakers, like I said, we're not ignorant as it's often been assumed, but we simply sound like the ancestors that came here so many years ago.
That's good.
I think that's crazy.
That's good. I like how she did it, like with each
like
of
the
line.
different accents. Like she has a ton in her back pocket, and I like how like she went from like that southern draw and she sped it up, and it sounds exactly like a British accent.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
I still think
y'all
just sounds a little dumb, and maybe that's just a bad stereotype in my head, you know.
So, do either of you follow NASCAR at all?
I do occasionally.
Not really.
So
my favorite driver is Kevin Harvick.
All right, there was a hilarious. I was in a meme or a video. Like there was a lot of people did not like Jeff Gordon. Jeff Gordon was one of the best racers.
Yeah, because he was the rival of Dale Earnhardt.
Right, but one of the main reasons they didn't like Jeff Gordon is because whenever he did interviews or he was on camera, he was eloquent and he could speak clearly. So he didn't represent what NASCAR was. You got Dale Earnhardt over here talking about I was going to left turn on Dale Earnhardt, and it's like Jeff Gordon is slow and methodic and eloquent, and it's like, well, what are you? Who is
proper?
This?
Yeah, he's
Yankee?
proper.
Who is he?
Get him out of here.
Yankee. Yeah. NASCAR is a super weird sport, and I think the sport is struggling like big time. Is that something you guys are aware of?
I'm not sure the numbers or anything, but I know they've been lacking on what's it called, viewers and ticket sales,
because it's
regional.
Yeah, it is regional. It's super regional. there's a track like next to me in Pennsylvania, but I think like the biggest thing about NASCAR is it's a big like in-person event, and the whole like COVID thing when they couldn't have anyone there, it's like who am I gonna watch on the TV? Like they like their fans, they want to go there, they want to like feel the engines coming past, they want to hear the sights and sounds, they want to tailgate, do the whole 9 yards. So I think that plays a big part into maybe why it's struggling now.
That's a good point.
I can't imagine it's like it'll ever struggle to the point where it's like hurting though. Like the Daytona 500 every year, that's like one of the biggest sporting events in the world, and like I don't know, they're on like every week.
Yeah, it's niche. It's niche, and I mean so is soccer in America. Even baseball is becoming a little more niche in America. NFL,
you know what
NFL
else
is the best? What's
taken America by storm, which might be why it plays down NASCAR, this sport, and that's F1. I don't know if you've seen. You've seen the Netflix documentary about it?
Is that a straight line instead of the circle?
No, it's like a circuit. It's all zigzags, and it is absolutely insane. If you want to watch a good series on Netflix, type in Drive to Survive F1. Honestly, I was never an F1 fan. Never an F1 fan. I watched the first season of that series. I'm all on board with it now.
That's gonna be a tough one to get me to watch.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
All right, maybe. But yeah, man, January 6th was not good. And dude, like I said, I like Trump a lot, thought he had a lot of potential. Kind of wish he would have just chilled for like a little bit and like been a little more sympathetic. But it was definitely like partly his fault because he had the rally there. Right. And like I mean, he's not a good loser, which is something that is a respectable trait about someone in some way. Is Tom Brady like losing? No, he's going crazy on the sidelines. Like, but this is not football.
But Tom Brady's not like tackling the refs when they're right. That's not happening.
and like he did lose he didn't win every year, and he accepts the loss. Like it's like, and so so I do think that I think that Trump lost, and I think that because I trust our elections, and I think that because I know a lot of people personally who liked it before, didn't like him this time, and like that's a small sample size, but it's real. And what was I gonna say? I do think that the Democrats with the mail-in ballots, it was very beneficial for them. Like,
sure.
I don't think it was changed the election, but like I know people who went out, they did the mail-in ballot, and then, dude, I always say this, and tell me if you've ever heard this, Alan. Election day this year was a beautiful day, high turnout, like type of stuff.
Yep.
So they went and voted again, and I never heard Trump say like, "Yo, send in the ballots." And that's something he would say. He would say, send in the ballots and go to the polls, Like, he would say something like that. Right. But he never even like thought to get his base to do the mail-in stuff. I just really think they had a lot of stuff like tip in their favor, but it wasn't even that close.
No, at the end of the day, Trump's own appointed security guys had and national election security, I forget the guy's name or what agency, but everyone who he had appointed who was in charge of election security had said that this was the most secure election in history and nothing went wrong. There was nothing abnormal about it. The FBI released massive reports that said there's no proof of anything. The mail-in ballots were safe. Everything was fine. The Dominion voting machines that Mike Lindell is so conspiratorial about with MyPillow, it's like they weren't even connected to, his claim is that they were hacked by China to help Biden win, but the voting machines aren't even connected to the internet. They're just they're just a counting machine. So there are a lot of things that people just don't like the truth. People don't like losing, and the voter fraud, it happens every time. But is it enough to actually warrant? Are thousands of dead people voting? No. Is there one or two that might have gotten on the ballot? Sure. Is that really that big of a deal? Well, it's human error. So what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah,
not storm the Capitol.
How many people stormed the Capitol? Was it like 1,500 or like 10,000 or like 500?
I think it was like 1,500 around the Capitol. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, but it's definitely like one of those things that, dude, I mean, I'm totally against it. Even I like Trump. I voted for him, and then some people in my family were like, "Yeah, I'm so happy they're storming the Capitol," and I was so pissed. I was like, "Dude, what, are you crazy? This is like the most embarrassing thing ever." I'm totally against it. But I mean, the media, they did make it seem worse than it was based on how they were making heroes out of the protests on the other side. That goes back to just
Yeah, it's not a
fucking
fair.
media.
It's not a fair representation because I think I mean, were the question would be, were the Trump supporters that were at that rally who did storm the Capitol, were they actually trying to instill a coup, or were they
No.
just? But at the same time, I mean, is that good to do? And the media, I think, their boogeyman was Trump. They love to talk shit about Trump, and understandable, right? He's a pretty easy target.
Yeah, I mean, he is an easy target. Dang, dude. Yeah, this is about what else? Give me another topic that you're interested in.
Oh boy.
When I think of politics, you're like guns, abortion, you're like all this crazy stuff no one likes to talk about. I like how you're doing that topic every month on your show a lot because these things are complicated.
Yeah.
And you said your three were the death penalty, and you said interventionist, and what's the other one that you have?
So yeah, so we've done so far since we've started the topic. We did COVID vaccine passports when we first started this topic change.
Let's talk about that a little bit.
COVID vaccines. All right.
Just COVID and shit.
Oh well, Jesus. Well, I guess COVID is real and it can hurt you if you are immunocompromised. Yes. If you want to get the vaccine, you can and should. If you don't want to, then who cares?
What are the reasons you shouldn't get the vaccine?
If you don't want to.
And what would be a logical reason someone wouldn't want to?
Well, if they have a hesitancy they don't trust the government, they don't trust the FDA, they don't trust vaccines in general. If they have
vaccines cured polio,
100%. I'm pro-vaccine. I'm vaccinated myself,
dude. So, I mean, I got the first one. I got the first one. Polio was a huge problem, man. You ever seen Tiny Tim from A Christmas Story?
Yeah,
that motherfucker had polio. Polio was a deadly problem in the 50s, and we got a vaccine for it, and now there's no more polio. That seems good to me.
Absolutely. So, but people are worried about allergic reaction. They're worried about the rollout of this vaccine. There's a new technology called mRNA. It's a different type of gene therapy for the virus. So there's not a lot of long-term studies on the effect of this vaccine. Is it going to be in 10 years' time we find out that this vaccine actually increased the chances of getting Alzheimer's, something stupid like that? We don't know. The polio vaccine, we have almost 100 years of data to go back on and say, oh yeah, it worked. Was there more Alzheimer's or something like that from the polio vaccine? No, and I don't think so. I don't even that is to prove it. But so I mean, COVID's real, but I think that at the end of the day, the bigger problem that I'm having with COVID's discussion is people aren't willing to admit that there are the comorbidities of COVID, like having a heart disease, like having
being a fat motherfucker.
Yes. I mean, get out off the couch. I'm not saying run a marathon. I'm not saying be a power lifter, but just general health and general. Don't eat so many fucking frozen corn dogs from Walmart. Like, just take care of your body. If you take care of your body and you're between the age of 10 to 45 and you're in good shape, you're not going to get sick. Now, obviously, people who are immunocompromised, like who are older, don't go sneeze on grandma. Don't go lick doorknobs in a nursing home. Don't do that shit. That's bad. They should probably get. They are the ones who need to be social distance. They're the ones who shouldn't go to a state fair or a large concert because no, but even during flu season, like when there's the season is going on and it's at the height of its spread, you should make the decision based on the data and the things that are out there. That's what the government and the FDA and the CDC should be doing, is just giving us information for us to make informed decisions. So I can decide as a 65-year-old immunocompromised man that if I want to go see a concert, I'm making that risk because I want to.
I think I think you should be allowed to, of course.
Right.
I mean, I love freedom and shit like that.
What do you think about the passports, though? Should businesses be allowed to require the what now? I don't know.
I gotta say, Hillary G, I saw you on Instagram and on here. Like, I think Hillary G, keep it up. You'd be the winner, and we'll Venmo you some money.
Hell yeah.
But what do I think about? What do I think?
Vaccine passports.
Whoa, Pat's an alien. you, Pat, I don't know. You just
Your audio's
sounded
bad,
real,
man.
You sounded real weird. But what do?
Oh my God.
Yo, Pat just took the vaccine and he's losing it.
He's got 5G now.
What do I think about the passport thing? I don't like it. I think it's hilarious how it's so easy to fake it. Like, I got my first one and I have the card.
Yep.
And like, if I didn't want to get the second one, I could just write on it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like I could. Okay. So, but I don't like the idea of it, but of course businesses are allowed to do whatever they want.
Right.
Businesses are allowed to. Of course you are. And now that gets harder for people to understand when that business is a grocery store, because it seems public. It
Right.
seems like it's like the public thing. And I mean, the DMV that's a place where people gather. Should they be allowed to say you have to be vaccinated? I mean, I don't know if that's the government, that's different, but like, it's basically a place. I don't like it, but businesses have the right to do whatever they want. My company, we have 17 employees, and we haven't been wearing masks for a while. We're naturally like distance from each other because everyone has like their own stations and stuff like that. And like, it's all good. It's not an issue at all. I don't even know who of my employees are vaccinated or not. But I don't like it, but I get it. And it's just dumb, and I want it to go away. And like, there's people that are righteous about it. And one of the ways to make it go away is to probably get the vaccine. Like, I got it real late. I got it really recently. And I didn't get the second one yet. And like, I'm supposed to go to New Orleans for my cousin's bachelor party. And that was actually my motivation to get it. The main reason I didn't get it for a while was because I did not want to make an appointment and have to go to CVS in the middle of the day. because I'm a busy guy, like I'm focused on things that like so I eventually did it on a Saturday, and my wife is visiting her sister with a niece and nephew, and like she wanted them to get it, and like so she got it for that reason, so we got it. Like, we needed little things to make us do it, but we're also young, go to healthy, we're healthy, we go to the gym every single day. Like, I don't think young healthy people need it, but like, correct, debate me on that. Like, I don't think young healthy people need it.
Well, I mean, I think that the argument is that young healthy people aren't going to, just like the flu, aren't going to die from it. That doesn't mean that if you like, we get the flu vaccine every year. I don't. I have to now because I'm required to.
Right, military.
Yeah. But you can get a really bad case, and you can be out for 3 to 4 days from work and just hating yourself. You won't die. You'll be fine if you're generally healthy. But with the vaccine, you'll have maybe a mild headache and a stuffy nose, and that's it. So now it doesn't stop transmission. You can still transmit COVID or the flu to other people. The vaccine doesn't stop that. But I think getting the vaccine is what we need to get to reach herd immunity. I think we have to get 75% of the populace to be vaccinated so that we can get past this. The problem is,
go ahead.
I was going to say the problem though is these variants that are coming through that aren't as diminished.
Dude, I don't. My mind hasn't even like allowed myself to like get to that because I just don't want to think about that. But like, my mom hit me up with the most like the best persuasion ever. She said to me, "Have you got the vaccine yet? It's have you done your patriotic duty or whatever?" And I was like, nice. Because like, she knows I love America and shit like that. Yeah. So I was like, that's a great persuasion. Yeah. And the other argument that against myself is, okay, you're young and healthy. You don't need it. But then won't you just be fine? Won't you be fine if you get it then? I got it. I was kind of tired for a day, and like, I had a little bit of a stuffy nose. I was fine. Like, so if it's better for the world, right? And then why not get it? And like, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like,
well, there's also something to be said. You're still got an alien voice, man.
Pat's got something great to say, but
he's
over there. He's right over there.
It's funny. No, there's something to be said about trusting and understanding science and embracing modern medicine and the marvel of modern medicine, that we have these abilities to take a vaccine to help, push forward in life and get back to normal. So getting the vaccine, if you understand the science behind it and you trust the people at the powers that be, these researchers who spend their lives dedicated to solving and helping people in the medical community, if you trust that, it's relieving, because I got my vaccine. I'm like, hell yeah, I'm vaccinated. I'm good. Fuck anyone who has an issue with my own decision. I can now safely go somewhere and not wear a mask and say, you know what, I'm fine. I'm done. I'm over this. Because of flu, I have a vaccine for that too. I'm good to go. If we're not getting vaccines because people are claiming conspiracy, or that our culture, now we just talked about it, like 4 different topics where the media can manipulate and control things and also censor things. Censorship's another topic that we're going to talk about next month. It's like, is it good to censor things, or should we allow everyone in the public space to have a conversation about whatever they want, but then the best information, the best argument, the best academically researched data can then win out at the end of the day? But it requires that discourse. It requires that conversation to be had. It can't just be, we're right, you're wrong, we have money.
And it requires the ability to have an initial hypothesis and then have to potentially be wrong.
Yes, and accept that wrong and learn from it.
And I think that's the sign of a good working brain.
Right.
And someone who's self-confident enough to admit the wrongness. And that's where the problem is.
Right.
Like, some people aren't like that. So yeah, I mean, I wasn't, for some reason, I don't know why. You can judge me however you want. I'm kind of asking you to. I was kind of non-vaccine. And my brother, kind of similar to me, he is I'm not getting it or whatever. And he's like, it's a merit, we don't got to do it or whatever. And I get what I kind of feel his vibe a little bit, but I didn't post it I'm proud of it, or I just got it, and I still got to get the second one. And I'm just I could write on the card. I don't know. I haven't heard of one scenario where somebody got it and they're fucked. It seems fine. Yeah, it's good. It's all polio. I keep saying that it's good. So it's just, I don't know, but for some reason I'm fighting it a little bit. Why am I fighting it a little bit?
I think you're programmed just like I am, that you're skeptical. You're a healthy skeptic, and that's good. I don't watch people on TV and say, oh, well, because they sound like an expert, they know everything. No, I don't trust the experts. I trust science. I trust everything to be hashed out in the public setting and debated, because we don't know everything, and science is wrong sometimes, and science evolves, science changes. So
the world is a square. Science. I guess it wasn't really science, but that was something that people thought at one point. That was common knowledge. And if you said it was a circle, a sphere, you're an idiot. You're laughed at. At some point in time, it was like that. So not every perception is correct.
Right.
And but now it's more likely that a scientific perspective is accurate at this point in time than it was in 1400s.
Right. And that's the thing, is that the fast approvals. So this is a good point. So Hillary says that the fast approvals are concerning. That was I was getting at earlier, is that science is great and we can have all these conversations about what's good and bad. But the problem with the mRNA vaccines from Pfizer and Moderna, they were so fast tracked with government funding that, because we wanted to get this done. It's actually a myth that this was fast tracked. Funding was diverted to SARS-CoV-2 specifically, but mRNA vaccines have been in the works and being researched since SARS, the first virus, SARS-CoV-1, was discovered in, I believe, 2004, 2005. So going on 20 years of research or 2002, 20 years of research on these vaccines and how we can use these new gene therapies to attack these viruses. We've been doing this for a while, and we have to be able to trust. And this is probably the problem with where the government stands today, is that we have to be able to trust scientists who are dedicating their lives and are there for the right reasons. They're not there for money. They're not there for grandeur. They're there because they want to help. They're there because they enjoy their craft. Now, where this gets murky is you have these conspiracies that come out, or these emails that are leaked from Dr. Fauci that proves that he was lying in certain ways. And okay, if you're gonna lose public trust if you lie, even if the white lie was to help people in the short term, like He said masks weren't effective in the beginning because he wanted the N95 masks available for nursing staff rather than the general public. Well, okay, but then you lied to us. What else are you lying about? What else can we not trust you on? So at the heart of my hearts, I don't believe Dr. Fauci is this evil, conniving, money-making schemer, but I do believe that he was susceptible to government corruption because that happens. We're human beings. So
I know that Fauci wanted to be famous, and Joe Rogan always makes that point about Fauci lied about this. Dude, he lied so the nurses could have him.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
I'm not.
No, like I kind of am. Like dude, imagine how much if you're a politician and you're at a national, you have to lie to the public. Like you have to lie to the public sometimes. I feel like.
I don't think you should. I don't think you. I don't think
never.
That's the no.
Like if aliens are coming or whatever, like, and they're gonna kill us all, and you know that. Should you tell the public?
Yes.
I guess that's a bad. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. All right. Well, okay.
Well, the only exception I would make, or the caveat I would make, is if it's a national security concern overseas. I don't think that the military or the president should come out and say these are our plans. What do you think? Like, no, that's different. Of course.
Strategy.
Right.
We talked earlier about consumer confidence and how a president can affect that. Like that's online a little bit, but that's more like manipulating. Like everything's great. Comment: is it vaccine if you still got COVID? Was polio the same thing that people can still get it? Sounds like a therapeutic.
So that is the argument. Scientific definitions, I'm not going to pretend like I'm an expert on. I'm not a medical professional. But the COVID vaccine, the flu vaccine, I think even measles, a couple of other vaccines, they're therapeutics. They're not the vaccine. A vaccine, I think, by definition, is to prevent the contraction period. Because it introduces antibodies into the body, so your immune system is well equipped and strengthened to handle when it actually encounters those viruses in the wild, right? So it greatly diminishes your contraction of a bad, what's the right word? It diminishes the symptoms you might get. Same with the flu. So it's a therapy. Okay. It's more of a therapeutic, but it's still effective.
It's effective.
Yeah.
Dude, I mean, I guess I believe it. I'm going to get the second one.
Do it.
September 18th as I'm scheduled. Yeah, I should do it. I mean, dude, polio, Tiny Tim, like no more of that. And I have been I could make the argument at first, like, let everyone who needs to get it first. Obviously, I'm not trying to say I'm a smoker or cut the line or whatever, like a lot of people did. But I haven't seen one person that's like been their life destroyed or anything like that. Everyone's fine.
Well, everyone's fine. Statistics matter too. People need to understand that statistics. If 1 in 100,000 people have an allergic reaction, that's not that big of a proportion.
Yeah,
you're going to be fine. There are reports of people having issues with their women are having issues with their menstrual cycles, and they're having issues with their hormonal issues going on there. But that's like 1 in 500,000 people reporting that. So that's obviously it's a thing. We should monitor it. We should make sure we're understanding this and how it works.
That's so small, dude. That's so tiny of a percentage.
That's the thing. Is that
like it's like 13 people dying in Kabul is a small percentage, but like of every life. But if you're just talking in percentages, it's so small.
Right.
It's so small. And yes, every life matters. And I'm just comparing things that are statistics.
Right.
So I'm with you. I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Different topic. Yeah. More history. I love history. What's your favorite war? Or your most, the one that you're most interested in? Like American War.
Yeah. Probably the Civil War.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I used to actually not be that interested in the Civil War. And like in the past couple of years, like, dude, I love the Civil War. I mean, obviously I don't love it happened or whatever. But too soon.
Right.
What? Tell me, just tell me what you like, what you're interested in about the Civil War.
The Civil War.
Besides for the fact that you had a beard that looked like you were in it.
That's what it was. I was reincarnated from a Civil War general. No, I think for me, the Civil War is so interesting because I mean, for one, it was us against ourselves, but it's more than just anti or pro slavery. It's more than just anti or pro states' rights. There's so many clashing cultures and values going on in that war, especially at a time when the uncertainty of our country. We're only 100 years old, and we're one of the last countries that has institutionalized slavery, and that is the main part of the economy in the South. So many states to this day, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, still have things that are ghosts or echoes of the past, that their economy still has not gotten back on.
Definitely.
Mississippi is the poorest country in the state in the nation, and there's a reason for that. But that, like the comment had just said, post-war Reconstruction is one of the most trying times in our country's history. We look at today and say, oh my God, we don't get along. None of us understand each other. Like, that happened back then too, and that was without social media. That you had newspapers and the Pony Express, and that's all you had to communicate with each other. And we hated each other probably more than we do today. Today, it's just more like it's in fashion to angry comment or angry react on a Facebook post, but you don't really think that because you haven't actually sat down and had a conversation with the person.
Yeah.
Back then, you actually could develop and understand someone and say, okay, well, I do hate you because you were pro North or pro South. But yeah, the Civil War to me is just, I mean, the technology of the time, Gatling guns are introduced. The more accurate rifle rounds are in the rifling on a what's it called? The type of round that they used in rifles. I can't think of it.
I don't know a lot about that. But here's a couple of my takes on the Civil War. One is I have one hot take that I immediately counter myself with, that Lincoln is overrated as far as like he was just a kind of a standard politician. Now my immediate response to myself is that he kept this country together, and that should be idolized. And like I'm so happy that we're not two different countries on this continent, and it's just okay. So like it's the whole power of it. And then the second thing is, dude, it was definitely about slavery. It was people say it wasn't about slavery, it was about state rights. Dude, it was about slavery. It was so much about slavery.
Yes.
And then like, damn, every war, actually, I don't know as much about like the rifles and the guns and stuff like that, but I love looking at the map of like where they came down to and like where it all went. And like, dude, the fact that it was like as far up as Gettysburg, I can't believe in the marching of the troops. Like the look at pictures from that time, and the pictures are so weird. They took so long to develop. Nobody's smiling, but like it was such a proud moment. Like even in World War II, even now, life is boring, and if you get to go be a soldier, like you get to go on this crazy adventure where like, oh my God, they're gonna talk about this forever. This is your one chance to like shine. And even if you die, it's like worth dying for. And the other thing I was going to say is I live in Charleston, South Carolina, and Charleston, South Carolina started the Civil War, specifically the city. The city started the Civil War, the residents of the city, and they were the most radical city at the time. Now, till this day, Charleston, where I live, beautiful city, great American city. I used to live in Philly, and just like if you look at outside of the bars at 2 a.m., Philly is fucking rowdy. Charleston is much more like not as rowdy, and I feel like that culture has spread from the fact that they were so radical. Now, obviously, the difference between partying and a political opinion is a little different, but still, that whole spirit of rowdiness, I feel like now Charleston's like, whoa, we should not be like the wild guys again. And I told it to my brother once, and he's like, dude, that was so long ago. And then like he actually a couple years later was like, that kind of makes sense, because why would you want to be dude? There's pictures of Charleston after the Civil War. It looks like freaking Afghanistan or whatever, a beat up town, because who's the guy? Sherman came through Atlanta, and then he came through all the way to Savannah and just torched that shit. And that was the end of it. That was the end, because he said we have to kill civilians. We have to kill everything in our path, because this war has gone on far too long. And dude, I drive up I'm from Philly and I live in Charleston, so I fly more now because I have a Tesla and the charging takes too long. But I drive up and down 95, and like I always think about the Civil War when I drive up and down 95, because that's where it was. And dude, Sherman, and then you think when you look back at history, you think everything was so perfect and everything went so well. But like, dude, Lincoln didn't know McClellan was the general for the North, and they had all the land, they had all the spots, and McClellan was this like fancy West Point graduate, and he was just too much of a wimp to go in and just do the job. He was trying to be too perfect and fancy about it. So he gets a fucking alcoholic in Grant.
Yep.
Grant, dude, he had serious drinking problems, dude.
Yeah.
But like, hey, so do I, and so do you. And we still do smart shit. And Grant went and won the war. And I always think it's so funny how like Grant and Robert E. Lee are like the same guy. And like, they're buddies. I mean, not buddies, but like they get each other, they respect each other.
Right.
And I just, dude, Stonewall Jackson. I love the Civil War, dude.
Did you know that Lincoln wanted Robert E. Lee to be the general of his army?
But we both know. But what was Lee's loyalty first to?
Virginia. He wanted to protect. Well, and now, have you been to D.C. or Arlington National Cemetery?
Yeah.
So the house in Arlington used to be Robert E. Lee's house, and the thought process, which I thought was kind of shitty, but also hilarious, that when they seized that house, they made it overlook the cemetery of the soldiers that were killed in the Civil War, and then every subsequent war. And it's like, oh man, what a your house now overlooks.
That's fair. I think that's a fair like little slight at them, because I mean, dude, they were traitors. They were fucking traitors.
Oh, yeah.
And dude, I mean, I like Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, Grant, McClellan, Sherman, the dude who ended up getting killed by the Indians, Custer. Like, so many great generals. And one thing I always think about is like, how many great generals are there that never had their time to shine? You know, like even in World War II, Eisenhower and the dude out in the Japan area, MacArthur, like these guys are heroes. Who was that person today? And like, it's not the same, because it's cyber, and it's always in the mind. It's always psychological warfare, but like the troops and the marching and the motivation and the brave heart. Let's go, guys, and keeping your troops happy and all that shit. Like that's gone. The days of that are gone, and we only have the wars that we have. And Civil War excites me.
Well, man, so I got to ask you this, because obviously warfare's changed, right? What would be what's the war that you would like if you had to pick a war to fight in? What would be on the bottom of your list? Like, I would never want to fight in that war because
World War I.
The brutality of World War I.
Trench warfare. Fuck that.
Yeah,
dude. But no one ever made it anywhere. So that'd be my least one, and then the Civil War.
I always think though, like, think of those badasses wearing these wool petticoats in the Revolutionary War in the summer of Virginia. Like, why? I mean, in the winter, great, you're wearing wool, and that makes sense. But they're the same material during the summer, and you're more so dressing to look like a gentleman. And you're standing. The Civil War is a lot the same in this way too. But you stand in a line, and you got that one guy who's a drummer, the one guy who's a flag carrier. They don't have a rifle, and then if the flag drops or the drum drops, you're instructed to drop your rifle or give your rifle to someone else and pick back up to have a beat to drum to, or a drum beat to walk to, and the flag. So the flag's on the ground. It's like, I don't want to.
I would not be picking up that drum. I don't care what the rules are or whatever. And I also question like the reality of that, because yes, in the very early on there was that structure to it. You think by year 4 after Gettysburg, after where was it? It was in Maryland, Antietam, the deadliest war of the Civil War. You think after that people are like, yeah, we got to get the drum going. No, that's when Sherman was like, yo, we're fucking torching everyone. I don't care. We got a drummer. I don't care if we got a banjo player. I don't care what we got. We are just torching families left and right. We're going from around the swoop from the north down through Atlanta to Savannah, and we're just torching everything because we have to win. And these people aren't going to give up. And that's the sign of a good war when neither side will give up. And you got to. I mean, we're looking back on overtime, lives, whatever, but I respect the fight on both sides.
Yes. Yes.
Well,
Well,
and it's kind of American, even for the South.
that's a big thing too with the South. That the misunderstanding of obviously the political powers that be in the South, and the generals who knew what they were doing and why they were doing it. And we can criticize them and call them treasonous, but at the end of the day, you had a lot of 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds who were either drafted or volunteered in the
They don't
South.
know.
They don't know what they're doing. They just wanted to defend Virginia. They wanted to defend South Carolina, and they thought it was spun to them by the people who were in charge of them that the federal government, Lincoln is this tyrant. So
Lincoln is fuckface Lincoln. Yeah.
That was what they were told.
That's the propaganda, and you have to do that in war. You have to dehumanize the other side. You have to.
Yep.
And it's hard to do looking back on, and like we don't do it like that now, really, because people are better, I guess. But you got to dehumanize the other side.
It's easier to prove it. Just prove it now, because now the other side can get on a phone and do an Instagram live conversation.
That's right. That's so right, dude. Civil War is great. The Revolutionary War, pretty good. But dude, Civil War is one of my favorites. But World War II, dude, they got the names. They got the star power. The Stalins, the Hitlers, the FDRs, the Mussolinis. Dude, the Tojos.
Yes.
Like, you got the star power in World War II. The Eisenhowers, the Pattons, the MacArthurs, dude. World War II is the most like dramatic and powerful. And dude, in the Nazis, you got Rommel. Rommel was kind of a good guy. He was like the Desert Fox who fought in North Africa.
Yep.
He actually tried to take down Hitler later on.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of Hitler.
No. And then you got like the Himmlers and the other guy. They were kind of like this little slimy like Nazis. But dude, I always think if the Nazis didn't kill all those Jews, which they did, and that's fucking unfathomable, terrible, disgusting. If it wasn't for that, like, if they didn't do that and they maybe used those people just as regular citizens or didn't judge them based on religion or whatever, then it would be harder to dehumanize them in a historical viewpoint. Do you think so?
You mean that if the Holocaust didn't exist, would Germany have been as easy to defeat?
No, I mean, say the Holocaust didn't exist, but it went exactly how it went. We wouldn't be using the phrase Nazi today to say that.
In that way,
we don't like. You know what I mean? Like that. If they didn't do that, they kind of had they had a case. Like the Treaty of Versailles, they were so pissed that they got treated like shit after World War I. No one demonizes anyone from World War I. It was a war of imperialism,
right?
And then World War II was kind of the same thing, except now when you look back on it and you see what they did to the Jews, it's just like hits. But if they didn't do that, they were just trying to grow their country, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, fascism would be the predominating argument, because the Nazi regime, if you take away the Jewish and the absolute solution, all that crap, or the final solution.
First of all, they could have had 6 million more soldiers. Maybe they would have won.
Who knows? I mean, hindsight might be a bitch for Hitler. If Hitler was alive today.
Oh, dude, of course. Imagine, dude. I've studied Hitler inside and out, and like, he would have loved to have another shot at that.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't invade Russia in the winter, but
exactly. Yeah.
No, I think you're right, though. I think it would have been tougher for us. I mean, hell, Hitler was charismatic as fuck. He was Time Person of the Year prior to the invasion of Poland. I think the only thing we would have been able to do was prove that it's not good for countries to have the power to just go and invade other countries. Like that we shouldn't stand for that.
And no one does that anymore.
No one does that anymore. Well, Russia did it to Ukraine. But
that's the only one since World War II. Is that the only one? Pretty much. Like, that's the one I was going to state as something that I know that is a land invasion. But there hasn't been a lot of those.
Yeah, but to that scale, though, I'm sure that obviously there's been power grabs and things happening at borders. Gaza and Hamas go back and forth all the time, and the Palestinian versus the Israeli conflict, and the Taliban in Afghanistan just took over the country.
Yeah.
So what define invasion? If we're talking about an actual country that's established, that is respected and known as a country, that invades another established government and governing country like Poland, that's a little higher brow, right? It's not just a bunch of little militant people running around. It's actually shit.
Yeah.
So
Dude,
yeah.
did you ever see that TV show? I thought they could have done such a better job with it, but I was on Amazon, and it was about if Germany and Japan won World War II, the Man in the High Castle.
Yeah. No, I never got it.
I actually didn't like the show, but I loved the idea of it. Like, because part of it is one of the guys in the first episodes, he's like, my dad died at the invasion of Virginia Beach. Like, he was defending America, and we lost. Like, imagine that, dude. We're so lucky. Like, yes, we are privileged. We're privileged by our oceans.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know how hard it is to invade. I watched this video on YouTube. It was about Hitler's plan to invade America, and it all ended with how far the planes could go with bombs. Yep. Even if you have a couple fighter jets around it, like the fuel, just like it would have had to been a boat invasion.
Yep, and that would have been very tough to do. But have you ever seen Red Dawn?
Nah. That sounds familiar.
So the old 80s movie Red Dawn.
Oh, wait, is that the one that they played on TV that freaked everyone out about nuclear war?
Probably.
Okay, Reagan era, Cold War.
Yep. It was. I think it was. It was Soviet Russia invading the United States, and Patrick. What's his name from Ghost? And
Swayze.
Patrick, thank you, Patrick Swayze. Patrick Swayze was a young kid who I think his brother was in the military, and he's like, all right, let's just fuck some shit up. But they redid it. There's a new one with Chris Hemsworth as the young kid.
Oh, really?
It's I think North Koreans or Chinese invade this time.
Ooh.
It's the same story. They just redo it for modern times.
With a different country.
Yeah. But it's more it's pretty interesting because it's like, shit, how would that go down? Because one, the United States is the most well-armed citizen population in the world. So, if you invade northern Wisconsin during hunting season, you're fucked.
Fucking luck, dude. No one's invading us because that would be the very good for unifying the country.
I would hope.
Of course. I mean, 9/11 was very unifying. Pearl Harbor was very unifying. And like, because you forget about all that stupid shit that you're fighting about, and you're like, yo,
right.
No.
Right.
No one's invading us. And like, one of my favorite things with Trump was when he tried to get Greenland, or he tried to like we should still maybe try to grow, like, just like you can't. We could take Greenland by force if we wanted to. It'd be very frowned upon in the global community, and it should be. It should be
right,
because like we can't just go invading Greenland, like. But and what's the point? Like, it's just that'd be cool if we acquired, like. I love watching like a map of Europe in the 1700s with Napoleon, or even during the 1940s, and you watch the countries change, and like they put it real fast on YouTube, and you see like the lines changing, and you see how much change there's been since World War II. There hasn't been any significant country lines shifting, and like, why not? I mean, we can make some deals here and there. Maybe try to get Toronto as part of America or something like that. I'd be down for Toronto.
Get the Blue Jays
part of
back
America. Yeah. Maybe like we get those couple good Canadian cities. We grab those, like the Vancouvers, the Torontos, and shit.
It is pretty recent history that Alaska and Hawaii were annexed.
True.
Like that 1950s. I mean,
what's the definition of an annex?
Annex, so you're bringing into your country. You're annexing it to be a part of your country.
Who owned Hawaii before?
They own themselves.
They're Polynesian. They didn't. Okay, no, but they didn't have they weren't part of some long empire or anything. They were up for grabs, kind of.
Yeah, they had their own monarchy. I think they had the Queen of Hawaii.
Really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that's
a hell of a job. The Queen of Hawaii. I imagine her like on a surfboard and shit, like living a beautiful dream, eating like drinking of a coconut like glass or something like that. Great life.
Oh man,
Alaska. Was that Russia? That's like
who the hell didn't we buy Alaska from? Yeah, I think it was Russia. I think Russia owned Alaska.
They're right there. Yeah, but that side of Russia, no one goes over to.
No, it's too cold.
Russia's interesting.
What do you think? Who do you think that the largest, like the public enemy number one in the geopolitical space? Like if there was a country that was our number one enemy who we have to fight, is it China? Is it Russia?
China.
Who's on our shit list?
China.
Yeah.
I don't know really. Like I'm like acting like they did something to me. Like, but through the zeitgeist, it seems like they are our enemy because not necessarily militarily. Of course, everything relates to militarily, but like they're gunning for number one. They're gunning for like what we have.
Right.
But we still have that like cultural Hollywood thing. That, but I don't know. I don't watch a Chinese movie. I don't think like that's good for us globally. But like, I'm just scared they're coming to be the best. And like, they got all these people and shit, and like, you know, intellectual property is kind of an issue. And like, I just don't trust them. I don't know. China. Would you agree?
China. You got to say it the right way. China. No, I do agree. I think China has our balls in the vice when it comes to our economics. We everything we do. I mean, was it just a couple months ago? What's his face? John Cena apologized for calling
that was weird.
Taiwan a country. Right? It was like, what are you doing? LeBron James has apologized because the NBA stands to make money from sales and marketing in China. You know, it's a problem. North Korea is a problem right now, and North Korea we can't do shit about because. Well, I mean, they're a massive humanitarian crisis. They're not a problem for us. They're a problem.
Right. It goes back to what we were talking about earlier about is it our problem?
Right. I meant it's a sorry. I meant that it's a problem because we can't do anything about it because China would say something or they would cut off our trade or they would increase our tariff. So everything I'm just saying every decision we have to make in the world is influenced by China. Hollywood movies, China. All of our exports, China. Everything just runs by them, and it's a problem. It's a massive problem.
And they have so many people.
If we ever were to get in a war with China, I would hope to God it wouldn't be boots on the ground. It would probably be cyber or drone, but still.
It's so crazy to look at. Like, China was not that much involved in World War II, and Russia lost 27 million people. And then a couple generations later, there's so many Chinese people, and there's not that many Russian people.
Yeah.
Like, that really affects your numbers of people, like World War II. How many people died in World War II? The countries that had more people die in World War II have less people now.
It's pretty wild.
That's wild. In China, dude, they like Japan kind of came at their eastern side a little bit. Like they hate each other or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had one employee who used to work in Japan. She said Chinese people and Japanese people hate each other.
Oh yeah, it's like Puerto Rican Mexican type. It's like,
they don't like each other?
No, you didn't know that?
No, I did not know that.
Oh, it's probably Japanese versus Chinese times 10.
Really?
Yeah.
It's why? What's their beef? Just a culture thing?
I think a lot of Mexican people that at least I've spoken to have they think that Puerto Rico is the wannabe ugly stepchild that also speaks Spanish. It's like, oh, you know, they also use different language, different words mean different things, but it's slang. So it's kind of interesting because Puerto Rico, we own Puerto Rico. They're not a state.
Puerto Rico is such a weird one,
right? But yeah, I know it's just like that. The Chinese versus Japanese. It's like that culture is so close, but it's not the same. And you know, China is the big bad, and Japan is more respected on the world stage. So Chinese people look at Japan and think, "Oh, you're so much better than we are," but you're not. So
dude, Japan had their shot, man. They had their shot. They were trying to get those islands, to get those resources. They don't have the natural resources. They're not a threat. They're capitalist. Like, they're fine. They're good. Like, they're great. Like, do your thing. They had, and they knew it. They knew in 1940s, this is our chance. And they fought to the end, man. You gotta give them credit. They fought so damn hard. But China was just like, and now it's China's time. China's like, yo, we got this. And like, they probably do. All those people, all that land, that government with that strategy.
I'm concerned. My main concern though is that we're turning a blind eye because it favors our economy. That, you know,
dude. I mean, dude, I get products from China sometimes.
Sure. I mean,
what am I, stupid?
Well, I mean, it's cheaper. It makes things run faster.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Parts of the machines that you probably use when you do the screen printing for your probably are made in different countries. So it's like, what do you do? You have to make your money, but at the same time, is there a line we can draw as a community to say, okay, if there was proof of a Chinese company just doing heinous things, maybe is it up to our government to say, okay, well, we're going to ban imports from them
Mm.
and hurt that business? Is that a way to fight war? But I mean, right now, or in Hollywood, Disney, the Mulan live action film, at the end of the credits, they thanked the Chinese Republic and the Communist Party of China for allowing them to film on location in these areas. And those areas are where they have Uyghur Muslim re-education camps or concentration camps where they're systematically killing almost Holocaust
Are
level.
they really? Tell me more about that, because you hear about that, but I don't really get that. The Uyghur thing. They're Muslims, right?
Yeah, they're Asian Muslims.
Okay. That's like a weird, like, I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
Asian Muslims. Okay.
They don't associate that that a lot of the times, but
right.
Yeah, Uyghur Muslims are in a more northern area of China, and the Chinese Communist government doesn't agree with Muslim ideologies, not just Islam faith, but also just values as far as culture's concerned. So they basically round you up if you're a Uyghur Muslim, and they put you in a re-education camp and try to force you to change and convert you. And if you don't abide, then you're stuck in this prison camp and you're working until you're dead. And there's also been reports, there's nothing that I have hard data on, but I don't not believe it, but they're harvesting organs and using these people as cannon fodder to help their own elite people who need organ transplants or need blood transfusions or whatever. It's like, oh, here they're cropping human beings, right? But that also goes on in North Korea. North Korea basically sells organs from their populace because they can to China.
Dang. Like people who are in prison because their grandpa committed a crime or whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that. Shit that happens.
Dang.
So I mean, China has lots of problems with rape, and so does North Korea. They're kind of one and the same. They work on each other, but they don't have that many women. It's a lot. It's the because of the laws that you can only have. You either have to have a girl or you can only have a guy. Or, so.
And dude, I would not want to fight a boot on the ground war against a bunch of dudes who can't get laid. They're gonna be so angry,
That's what January 6th was. A bunch of dudes that.
Yeah, dude, and you don't want to fight them.
No, you're right.
Whew, dude, we covered a lot of shit.
Yeah, we did.
Pat, try talking one more time.
And now you're
dude,
muted.
I told him before this. I'm like, we got to get a microphone over there, and we kind of messed around with it. But I can't hear you. I don't know. But yo, I'm so happy I got you for this, man. I've very much enjoyed this conversation. You're so smart about this stuff, and it's just such a pleasure.
Yeah, man,
it's such a pleasure to talk to someone like you.
You too, man. I'm glad you reached out. It's been a pleasure to follow you and see what you do. And
you think you think we're similar? Or you think we're like different?
I think we're similar where it counts.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think our biggest difference is?
I think you're far more business motivated and business minded than I am. I work for a nonprofit and I joined the military, and I'm living paycheck to paycheck.
I'm also like trying to live in payroll to payroll. I got 70 employees every 2 weeks. I got this giant payroll. I just bought this big building. Like, yeah, like I'm grinding, but like, yeah, that is a different. I chose that. I chose that life. But like this is Americans. Me and you talking about all this shit, and like you taught me so much today. And I appreciate that.
No, I'm glad you had me on. It was great to see you again. And we're gonna have to do this again. We obviously both of our platforms, but
for sure. Hell yeah! All right, let's take one more chug. Pat, You got a beer over there. We can see you. All right, Drink Go Rich, and yo, the winner of Drink Go Rich is what's her name? She keeps popping up. She's awesome. Pat, what was her name? She asked those questions. Her name was Hillary. Hillary's the winner. Hillary, you're the champion. I'm going to DM you on Instagram after this. Get your Venmo, send you some beer money, and we appreciate your engagement. And cheers, everyone.
Cheers, Sean. Go check out the Cogan Conversation.
The COVID Conversation, I'm going to link it up right here in Drink and Grow Rich.